Hello everyone, Ted Simpson here, and I'm ready to show you another painting today. It's a new day, it's a new painting to me, it's a new hat. But I always take the hat off to paint because I'm going to cover it with paint, I swear. So what we got here is a 16 by 20 set up in the portrait orientation. And this is a painting I don't think I've ever done before, specifically off of an episode. This one's called Enchanted Forest, and it's a very, as Bob called it, a very fantasy-like painting. Now he's done a number of versions of a similar style here, painting some or all of it with Black Gesso. I actually took a little bit of white gesso. I wanted this eye a little bit lower, but it's not. It's a little bit higher than center. Bob had his eye a little bit lower in the middle of the canvas, but oh well, we'll deal. So the first thing we get to do is cover the entire canvas with a very, very thin coat of the liquid clear. Now you'll see here, the liquid clear goes a long way. This jar here will last you a long time if you're just painting at home. And you'll see here, I definitely put on too much. You can easily overdo it. And you know, sometimes it's not so bad. It helps cover it faster when you put on a little bit too much. But if you're trying to save a buck or two, use very little and just watch how I just grind it in there or crisscross it. And we just want to make the whole canvas shiny. And I pick up some from an area that looks nice and shiny, and you can move it to a dry area, and it's enough. It's enough. So did anyone see me on the ABC News last week? If you're watching from last week anyway. I was on the morning news program, Good Morning Mid-Michigan, on ABC 12 out of Flint, Michigan. And it was super fun. I did a whole painting in about 45 minutes on a big old 18 by 24. Gave them the painting afterwards, and we had a little interview segment there after the painting was done throughout the show. Fun times, man, fun times. It was really fun seeing my page views spike on my website. Like, oh my gosh, my hosting company's gonna try to, what's going on there? I don't get that many views on my website per day, but it's fairly consistent. But there was a big old spike. And then the next Sunday, I was on there like on a Tuesday, and then on Sunday morning they replayed it and spike again. So I'm just gonna let this kind of mellow right here. And this is this is the boring part. Feel free to skip ahead when I actually start throwing some color up there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a big batch of lavender color, or purple, a lot of crimson, very little blue. I will add more blue as I need it. So you scrape it all up and you spread it out. Make sure your knife comes away clean so you don't have a bunch of unmixed color there. Still a little bit to the red side. You can always add more blue, but it takes a heck of a lot more crimson to bring it back if you added too much, you know? And I'm just trying to tell you that so you don't waste a bunch of paint. This little bit of oil from the green is bugging me. Let me get that out of my way. So, what kind of purple do you like? Let's take a little bit of white, mix it in there. That's just about what I'm looking for. It may be slightly to the red side. Don't put that white back into your color. We want that to be nice and dark. Nice and dark. Transparent color it is. Why I'm talking like Yoda, I don't know. It is a very transparent color. So now that I got that color mixed, I'm going to take a clean paper towel, excuse me, and I'm just going to give my canvas a quick once over to take off any excess. Don't want it too slippery sloppity on there. You see it pulls off a little bit of that black gesso I just applied. I gesso my own canvas. I don't buy them black typically, just because they're more expensive and I can just paint them black myself for a lot less money. So you do you. If you want the convenience of just whipping out a black canvas, you know, that's fine. But when I take my white ones, then I can kind of play around here and do these different ones where only partially, it's only partially covered. So, coming up here, picking up some of that lavender color, and let's just drop it right into the corners and sort of work my way out. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. I like to do sections here, you know, you pick up a little bit of color and already, look at that, that whole thing is done. This is a fairly transparent color, so it is tough to see. You just have to trust your gut and do a small section. Move that paint. We're not looking for a ton. What I like to tell my students when we're painting our canvases is if you put so much of this transparent color on that you can see it easily, probably too much. And even a little right over the white. See that? Just a thin glaze, as we would call it. A thin glaze of color. Now I am going to give it a little spread. I can actually feel it. When there's a lot of paint right there, you can feel the resistance on your brush. So you're able to move it out a little bit. But look how transparent that color is. That canvas has still got a nice haze of white there. All right. One of many times here, we're going to be cleaning the brush. This painting can be a little tough to do in a classroom setting just because we clean the brush often. And when you don't have paint thinner, it just takes a lot of paper towels and a lot of effort to shake out and grind out that excess paint. So sometimes I'll break out a little bit of paint thinner and let my students clean it that way, but we can't really beat the devil out of it too easily either. We get, you know, I'll bring these beater racks here, but you know, it takes time and it takes effort and it creates a lot of mist sometimes there when you're going crazy on it. So not my favorite thing to do in a classroom setting. I don't want people who are sensitive to the paint thinner to get feeling uncomfortable or whatnot. So, you know, you gotta deal with that, I guess. Kind of balance between cleaning the brushes better and being sensitive to people's lungs and such. Okay, so a lot of titanium white in today's painting here. So I like to spread it out so it's at least as wide as that 2-inch brush. It just makes it a lot easier to load. See that? You want to be able to pull some through, back and forth. And then crisscross, 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 crisscross. Working away from the light. This is my bright spot here, working away from the light. So as I run out of paint and I'm going into the purple, you get these color changes. You get this sort of a fade happening here. See that? Now, go back into the white, pick up that bright color again, and you start again if you want this to be a little brighter. Simple little X's, crisscross strokes. picking up that purple, working outward, something like that. There we go. And we actually can do a little bit of sun rays here. Pick up a little bit more white right there, and then zing, 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 zing. I like those little zingies. There we go. Okay. Maybe if I knock off some of that excess paint, just fade this out a little bit more. I don't know. Whatever you're feeling. It's all going to get covered up anyway. All right. So, what is next? I tell ya, we've got my purple here, maybe a little bit of crimson. We're gonna tint this white. We want it to be a little bit, just a little bit darker than white, so we can create that first layer of trees. But they're so far off in the distance, we want to give the impression that the sunlight's kind of burning through them. Can't really see too much of them. I'm not sure if this is going to be dark enough. So you just adjust it. You can take a little bit of, and make purple right there if you want to. Doesn't matter. I had all this extra purple, so might as well use it. Now, Bob does a heck of a lot with this 2-inch brush in this particular episode. And it's all about the angle. This way, down, up, down, left, right, and then sort of twist too. It's like crazy. There's a lot of things going on, and all these different angles create different effects. So, there we go. Just using, really, I know the whole brush is full, but really he's only using the corner of the brush. Now, I don't mean this corner, I mean the tips of the bristles here, just about not even a quarter of the bristles. So sometimes you'll see him lean the brush in, and he's just focusing on the right side here. And then tapping to create these little shapes way off in the distance. I think I need more paint on my brush. Pull some of that white down. There we go. Get some color up in those bristles. Oh, there we go. Look at that. See that? Creating just little indications way off in the distance there. Get a little more out there. And vary it up. Let some of them come out a little further, others not so much. Working our way down. Burning our way through that light source there. I like it. Pretty cool, huh? Still see a few zingers coming through, little sunlight beams. And one of the cool things, I want to try to impress upon you, something that Bob didn't really go over too much, is you can kind of see here, see like these little fingers, these little sections that come out. Take a look at this side. Do you see these little sections of negative space? Those are important here. You don't just want to fill the whole wall a straight line. Do you see all these little empty spaces here? That's a good thing. We're gonna come back to that a little later. So, we're working our way down. Let's put a little bit more here. Coming down to the area here where there's going to be a path running through. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's set this brush aside. And I made a gosh awful mess here. Alright, so I tell you what, I'm going to put that darker stuff down there. Now I got a little bit of lighter stuff here. And just to show you, we can use this small brush. You don't have to use the big 2-inch brush. And maybe, just getting it prepared here, in case we're having trouble getting the paint to come off, I just use a single half a single drop of the liquid clear, just to loosen it up a little. You could use liquid white too. Getting some of that color in there, tapping and pushing forward. See that? I tap that color and then push it forward. Get that paint right up on the tips of the bristles. Now, let's dance. Ooh, I'll tell you what. I almost forgot. A touch of the alizarin crimson, just to change the color a little bit. And let's dance a little highlight here and there over the top of these darker parts we put in. Just a little tapper. See how that paint sticks right on top? Now as I'm going through here, oh, that was a lot. I'm just re-pulling down some more paint. Want to make sure I get plenty right up on the tips. So when I'm coming in here, it just falls off the brush. There you go. And depending on the brush, you get some different results, you know? Some of these brushes you gotta tilt and turn and create a shape. Other brushes, you could use the black-handled oval brush, makes a different shape, or the round brush. You can get some more lush-looking highlights. This brush here, this highlight brush, I'm making a little bit more straight horizontal things here. If I turn the brush a little bit, there we go. Now, same thing here. You see all these little negative spaces. That's where I can add a little bit extra there. Just a little bit. Great space, great spot to put in a little bit of a pinker one as we move away from the light. Maybe not as bright. Play around with it. Try to figure out how much paint you need to get this effect. Okay. You know, let me stop right there, and we could have done this step before the highlights or after. It doesn't matter too much. But a little bit of paint thinner. Thin this down a little bit. That was a little too dark over here, so I'm just bringing it over to the light. Want this still to be fairly pale. Little bit of color. And here and there you can sneak in some indications of branches or trunks. Breath and hold it there. There we go. Even some, maybe even over here, you could see a few kind of lifting out. Who knows if we'll see them over there or not. But you can add them in. Like I said, it's a little easier to do them before you put the highlights on, but it doesn't matter so much. Okay. Whoop. Drop my brush. Now what I'm going to do, get rid of that paint thinner stuff there. I don't want it to affect my next shades. Let's come in here and add a little bit more of my purple. Make this a little darker. Ooh, you know what? I might just do it right here. Look at that. It's not pure dark. You know, there's a little bit of white in it. Now those negative space bits there I was telling you about, that's where we put the next layer. See that? Let them come out and overlap that previous step. Here and there. Negative space. And their fingers. Negative space fingers. How about that? That's my new prog rock band. Building our way out. Sometimes you just gotta forget about that weird stuff on the sides there. Just see what you're doing, leaning towards the light. Look at that. I like it. Then coming back with a little bit of highlight. I'm just gonna add some white to the brush here. Fill some of this in. Oh, I tell you, I almost forgot. Let's do those branches first this time, show you the difference. Now I'm going to thin down some of that same color I used to create the foliage. See that? Same color. Makes a pretty cool effect. Maybe even a little bigger one. The whole idea is we're creating hopefully a sense of depth to our painting, some distance happening, right? So adding in some bigger trunks here and there so the branches are a little bigger, a little more visible. I do want to stress, as soon as you're done with this brush, rinse it thoroughly. Now I want to show you here, what the heck. Let's see. Let's try it with the 2-inch brush this time. A little bit of lighter color tapped up in there. I want to see that nice little ridge forming. You see that little ridge? Got to have enough paint, the right angle, and a little bit of pressure pushing forward there. Pushing forward to get that paint right up on the tips. Come up here and maybe not as bright as I want it. Let's come in here. I had to get a single drop of that paint, liquid clear. Liquid clear, a little more white. There we go. Loosens it up a little bit. Let's try that again. There we go. You know, it's just kind of in my way. That brush is a little too big for what I'm trying to do here. Maybe on a bigger canvas it might be a little easier. But let's try going back to that 1-inch brush. That 2-inch brush just isn't doing it for me today. There we go. Let's see this a little better. Maybe even a touch more of the alizarin crimson into the mix. Change the flavor. Maybe not so bright, so it looks a little bit different. Oh, maybe that was the key. I'm gonna figure these things out here. There we go. Makes sense. They're not so bright. As they're moving away into the shadow. Reloading that brush often, right? Often. Every little section needs a fresh load of color so that it comes off and is a little more visible. even a little bit more of the crimson here to do that next layer behind. See that? That's what makes it different. That's what makes it move forward in the scene. Working our way down, getting a little darker. Now we're getting all sorts of little bushes down here at the bottom too, not just the branches of the tree, but now bushes kind of in front of the trees down here. Change the angle a little bit, totally create a different look. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to move over to this black-handled brush. Let's give this a go. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that crimson and blue. I got a little bit of the darker mountain mix in here, touch of the brown, and maybe even a touch of green just to change the flavor. Crimson and blue give us that purple. The brown and green dull things out. And let's come up in here. And this is another layer over on this side. Look at that. Maybe a little higher. Yeah, why not? Look how it just overgrows that edge. Tapping. And it just creates that effect automatically. Now you can mix up a big batch of this. You can see here I'm needing to mix up another batch as I go. Feel free to make a big batch right off the bat if you want to. And of course down here, some little bushes. You could even push up. Give some little sticks and twig things happening there. So this is a little bit away from the light. It's even closer to us now. So that's just nice and dark. I'm going to clean out that brush. I'm going to use the same brush here to put in some highlights. But these highlights still not quite to the greens yet, unless you wanted to. We're just going to change up the flavor and make these a little bit more to the blue side of purple. Using that same brush to do the highlights. Look at that. Is this going to work? Feel free to double check yourself and change things on the fly if you need to. You could even dull it down with a touch of that mountain mixture or Prussian blue or whatever you feel. Let's see how this works. But let's go ahead and put a couple of branches in there too. Why not? You can if you want. There's no need to if you don't want to. I like seeing some of these kind of going through the blank areas of the sky. Makes it look like a big old branch working its way up there. A couple down here. Go over here and there. You get the idea. Okay. That half a drop of the liquid clear loosens this up a little bit. Get that right up on the tips of the bristles. Push. I sometimes call this the snow plow. Push it forward. And coming in here. And not coming off so well. More paint or thinner paint is the answer when it's not coming off so well. There we go. It was more paint. Creating these little hangy down things coming out into the sky a little bit. Changing the color, changing the value, the tone, angle and pressure. It all varies it up, right? Oh, maybe missed one right there. There. Really want that to be nice and bright. But look at those hangy down limbs. I love this brush. Get a little bit of extra layer going on back here. Guess what? The same little negative space is the perfect spot to drop in another layer. Put the ones in the outside. Come on back a little bit. Change the flavor. Leaving the dark areas. Bob always talks about how important those are, and of course, Bob was right. Very important. Now, yeah, you could come back and add even more of these if you want to. It's up to you. But we do have maybe a little one coming in here. And I am going to change the color here. Let's see about changing this measurably darker. How about that? I'd say that's measurably darker. Ooh, I like that one. This one's kind of coming down a little bit. Bob does this nice little thing here, changing the angle, giving this a little bit of a falling action. And maybe back here there's a little bit too. Just starting to see some shadows on that side. All right, maybe I should have stuck with that other brush there and just left a dark brush, but I can always clean it. I can always clean it again. Depends on what brush you want to use for the big old trees on this side. Maybe, what should I do? Maybe I should have a little practice with my 2-inch brush. Maybe I should have broke out the large round brush. Maybe next time I will try a whole tree-filled forest with the other brushes. But I haven't done these 2-inch trees in a while, so a little bit on the easel here too. Spray some thinner around the room. Alright, so what do we need to do? I think I need to make up a little batch of color here. Now look at this mess here. All this purple stuff. For now, we can just get rid of it. If I need to make a little more, I can. But for now, I want it out of my way. Let's do a little bit of palette cleanup here. And with our paper towel, clean up the rest. Not too bad. Not too difficult. Let us make a nice dark color. I like that That mountain mixture will be our base, and then we'll darken it with a little bit of green and brown. Now, I am using like a 30-year-old tube of brown today. It was just happened to be there. So you can tell it's like thicker than the white. It's firmer than the titanium white. But a little bit of that mountain mixture, that kind of loosens it up a little. This takes a little bit more effort here. Pulling it out. There we go. Nice dark green. Incredibly dark green. And we've got some purple on there too already. So we don't need too much. This would be a fine color for any type of shadows you want to put in. And I'm just going to drop some in here. You know where. Right in this little negative space. Tapping. Reloading. Getting that paint right up on the bristles. Gotta have enough paint to make sure you're covering up some of this stuff here on the right. Finding the angles. There we go. Really making this look like we're looking through a window almost. You know, we're sitting here and just looking all the way off into the distance. I like that look. Trying to figure out which ones are overhanging more than the others. Same thing on this side. You get this big old tree, set of trees, the whole forest actually coming through here, you know? Just putting in some dark color. Working our way back. You can see here, I don't know what's going to be here. You're not really going to see much of it, but it's fun to see some little shapes back here. The important stuff is overhanging forward, figuring out where this branch is covering up what. You know, we're coming back with highlights here, so all this dark stuff, believe it or not, it's just a guideline, just to figure out where the shadows are, where the highlights are going to be. Got some more hanging down things happening here. We don't know. There we go. Fun stuff. All right. Whew, I was just sitting there kind of admiring my own work there a little bit. All right, here we go. With that same color in my brush. Did I forget yet once again? No, I didn't. Look at how when I pull through that yellow, we start to get a nice yellow-green automatically. And then, of course, we can change things up. You can make it brighter with the blue. You can dull it down with some yellow ochre or the Van Dyke brown, or even some of more of our shadow color. As long as we get that right amount of paint right up on the tips of the bristles. And if it's not working for you, get that little bit of liquid clear. And let's go ahead. Here we go. On this bigger tree, It's a little easier to use the 2-inch brush because you just got more room. And one of the things I see people do quite often is they just go dee 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 dee, and all of a sudden we just have all these ladder rungs, you know? Play around with it. Turn the brush, move the brush here and there, hither and to, and what? Hither and fro? Is that the term? All right, I'm just talking. I'm just saying weird stuff. Here I go. Move the brush. Plenty of paint. Keep that brush moving and have some variation here. You know, this, that, and the other. This way and that. Fill in the back. You could fill in the back afterwards or right now, you know, fill in those spots that need it. I'm coming back here, I'm adding just a single drop. Gosh, I can't even get my brush in there. That single drop of the liquid clear. Making sure that paint is nice and loose. Don't want it too bright. This dark forest doesn't need to be too bright. Step back, see what craziness you create here. Double check if you need to keep going, you know. Oh, let's see here. Almost feel I need to get some more paint from the tube, but we'll give it a go here. Just don't have enough dark stuff to change my flavors. Oh, that's dark now. Can't forget. There we go. I think that side's good enough for now. I'll come back to it, I think. But I am going to pull just a little bit more of the mountain mixture onto my palette. I'm pulling down this cad yellow. Add a little bit of the mountain mixture to dull it. And then tap to get it up on the tips of those bristles. This time here, focusing a little more on the left side of the brush so we can create the other side of our tree here, the whole side of our forest. Sort of dancing that brush, turning and spinning as I go. Reloading often. Figuring out those empty spots. Making sure some of these kind of come down in front, hiding some of the previous layer. I like it. Looks like a different color than the left side. Some slight different movements here to make it look like a whole different set of trees. Don't want them all to look the same, right? Keeping the variation going. Mainly finally, so I have something to talk about. I'm just rambling at this point. There's a lot going on here. Ooh, a little bit of extra yellow ochre added some flavor. Ooh, a little brighter one. Maybe the sun is just somehow catching that one a little bit. I don't know. Makes more sense to do it over here. I'll do a little bit of that once I get done with the rest of this, I think. It is a little bit different. Once you get this muscle memory going, it's a little difficult, I should say, to try some different patterns. You know, you want to mix things up and don't just do the same shape every time. I'm doing some similar things here, trying to change it up. Gotta mix up the muscle, I guess. There we go. Getting some hangy down shapes happening here. Okay, before I do too much else, let's make a mess. Now, I'm going to take half a drop of this. I tell you that. Like I said, that Van Dyke Brown I'm using is awfully firm. So I'm just going to try to loosen it up with just a single drop of the clear. Now you could use a single drop of linseed oil. I would not recommend paint thinner. It's just tough to use the paint thinner. And it's easy for you to use too much. And let's not try to court disaster here. So maybe with this big old brush here, oh my lord. Let's just slather a nice old trunk here. Plenty of paint, just flattening it, whooshing it. And this comes all the way down. Got a big old root kind of coming out here in the path. This is okay. As long as you have some clean edges, having a little bit of roughness in there is only going to help us when we start making our highlights. There we go. Nice old root system happening there. And some of that's just going to get hidden away, so we don't really care too much. There we go. That was a lot of brown. Maybe a little trunk is going to come off right there. Maybe we'll just do that with the liner brush. Okay, let us mix up a little bit of that titanium white and our brown. That's pretty good right there. Just need a little more just in case. Titanium white, a little bit of that Van Dyke brown. Now, of course, you could mix it up with layers of dark sienna and bright red, whatever colors you want to make a bark tone. A little bit of yellow ochre, maybe. What the heck? I just did it. And just let it graze. Snow on the mountain style, just letting it kind of fall off the knife wherever it wants to. Trying to focus more so on the right edge because that's where the light would be hitting it the strongest. Not trying to cover up all the dark brown there. If you have a little secondary root kind of coming off like that, maybe even a little one down here. It's all good. Now what I'm going to do is clean off my knife, no paint on my knife, and I'm going to blend some of that back into the dark. Just right along that edge. Let it get a little darker as we move away from the light. Bob will sometimes take a little bit of Prussian blue and white to make like a cool shadow on the other side, but I don't think we need it. I don't think we need it today. I just want this to get darker and darker. And sometimes I think here, I think in the episode Bob actually did take a little bit more of the brown and forced it to be a little darker there. You figure it out there. As long as we have that nice transition, doesn't really matter how you do it. There we go. Now, I'm going to come back here. Look at how much I splayed all this stuff out with my 2-inch brush, but there's a lot of paint there. Doesn't look like it when it's all laid out, but no, now I got plenty of color again. Now, liner brush. I said 3 times here I was going to use the liner brush to make a branch or two. Just a thick old branch. There, we got one. Where is it? Doesn't really matter where. I'm just trying to figure out here. Oh, there it is. That's the one I did. That would come right off the middle. And maybe a little extra branch coming off there. Gotta make sure that paint flows to let it stick right on over the existing layers. So if it takes like an extra effort here to thin down some more paint, do it. You'll like it. There it is. It needs to be a little wider right there for it to make sense. Now, Bob did the same thing here, thinning down a little bit of white. I gotta find some white here. It doesn't have too much other color in it. Let's see if this works. A little highlight on this one. Nice. Now with a clean brush, maybe just sort of hit those 2 edges where the white and the brown meet, just to dull it, create a little transition here. Alright. Ooh, this whole time I was holding that 2-inch brush with a finger and a thumb. It started to go a little nummy. Alright, so I'm going to come here with just another droplet of the liquid clear. You get that paint too thin. I almost did it. I almost put it right back in there. If you get it a little too thin with the clear, it doesn't come off so well. It comes off a little soupy. So, gotta hide that tree a little bit. Well, that's coming off a little soupier than I'd like, so I'm gonna stop. Rather than just power through and accidentally do something I don't want to happen, you just stop. Get some more paint rather than just souping up what you have left. I'd rather you go through and use a little more paint than make a happy accident. Still looking a little shiny, and that shine means there's plenty of liquid clear in there. Finding the color that kind of matches what I've done before. But maybe maybe even gives a slightly different look. Hiding top of that tree a little. Make it look like that tree is also getting kind of grown over in spots. I like it. That's fun. Bob actually took a little bit of it, and well, we'll get to that. I was so wanted to do it now, but we don't want to do it quite yet. Maybe a little bit of brightness on this one here. Let it get a little darker as we move away. Now, just taking a little bit of the white, just a little bit here. Actually mix it up with a last little bit of crimson, touch of that blue. Don't want too much paint in the brush. There's already purple here, so I'm just going to scrub back and forth and give our little path indication here. Doesn't take much paint. Coming around. I'm going crazy with the path here. It's a big path. Great thing about it is you can change it if you don't like it. But it's just I love that look. Very mellow. Very mellow. And then maybe even a lighter bit coming through and just hitting certain spots. There we go. I find it a little easier even using the fan brush here. You can tap into this a little easier than the big old brush. You feeling a little wary about using the big brush? Use this little fan brush. Look at these little sparklers you can create up there. Little bits of grass or moss working all in these little areas. Following the angles of your scene here. And then Bob did use the last little bit of the 2-inch brush to maybe make a little bit of grass, just like that. All this little hanging stuff here on this side. I think that's it. Boy, that worked out quick. Well, maybe not as quick as Bob. What are we at? Almost 58 minutes here. And I love it. I tell you, you could play around and add a bunch of more stuff here if you like. Other trees and so forth. But I really like this whole fantasy forest, you know? I love it. I tell you what, let's get our liner brush here. And what color? Well, to make it really stand out, we'll use a little bit of titanium white. Doesn't matter if it has a little bit of blue or purple in it. You'll hardly see it. You'll hardly see it. Come right in here. A little signature there, my T and my S. And then a 24. My 4s are getting wackier as I go through the year. Pretty soon it'll be 25. Alright, that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you in TwitchCon in about a week. Stay tuned to the Bob Ross Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Bob Ross, and I'll be helping out with the big classes and at the booth. Come by and say hi. Take care, all.